In my part, I'll show you the Clay integration with Woodpecker, but I'll also show you a cool Clay table with a lot of use cases and a lot of things you can try in Clay. So to get the integration running, so you're here in Woodpecker, you go to that marketplace, you go to API keys, and you create your API key. Yeah? So you can generate one here, you copy that API key to get the connection with Clay. And then here, you go into Clay, under settings, and then connections, and then add connection, and then you pick here Woodpecker. And then you put in here, you can name it as however you want, and then you paste your API key that you have from Woodpecker here. And then you click save, and that's it. And then you have a connection with Woodpecker, and you will be able to send leads, update leads, and prospects in Woodpecker through Clay. All right, so let's show you an example table here. Okay, so we have a table with companies. This is an example table here. And this is a list of about, you can see here, 100 digital agencies from the US. On the left side, you have here the name of the company. And because we have scraped that list, we don't have the websites. So the first thing you can do here in Clay, for instance, is to find the company website. There is a very nice block here, and we all like free blocks in Clay, and this one is free, doesn't cost any credits, and goes through Clearbit. So this one you provide just the company name, and you get the company domain. It works pretty well, you can see. There are some empty spaces, as you can see here, here, and here. What you can do is you can do a so-called waterfall, not just for email finding, you can do a waterfall or fallback for finding a domain. Yeah? So you can use here AI, for instance, for this. There's a very simple prompt. You can use a very cheap model here if you want, 4.0 or 5 nano. It doesn't cost much. And then you give it all the information, you know about this company, because from this in directory we scraped quite a lot of data points, like the locality, you can see here, company size, the services as well. And then you run this only, of course, if you don't find a domain with Clearbit, because this will cost you money. Yeah? So in Clay you can also have conditions when to run a column, and in this case we only want to run it when we don't find a domain with Clearbit for free. And you get a response, and out of that response we pull out that domain field, and we get, you can see here, the 2 domains that were missing in our previous enrichment. Yeah? So now we have a nice waterfall to find our domain, and we started with a list of company names, yeah, and some other context we had from a directory. Yeah? So if you, there's a lot of value, yeah, because not everyone scrapes directories, not everyone goes to the same, you're not going to the same data provider. You will have maybe a better list that is not so saturated yet. So now we have company domain fallback, and then we can merge it here. You can see domain merged. This field merges those 2 domains, yeah, either found by Clearbit or AI. And if you look at the cost here, so imagine like, oh, this is too much cost. You can see here this, I don't even know how many cents under the dollar that is. Yeah, it's like 0.00052. It's like for free. Yeah, it's probably not even one coffee if you do it for a whole year. So yeah, it's very cheap, especially if you use the very cheap model. So yeah, for some kind of like operational or data cleaning stuff, or even finding something out, it's definitely cheaper than your time, and you would have to do it yourself. All right, now we have the domain. When we have the domain, you can see here the other fields. There's like reviews we scraped, review count. So we have companies that have 300 reviews, and we have also companies, you can see at the bottom here, that only have 1 review. We know about them as well, that what their minimum project size is. So like when they start a project with a customer, how much do they bill at least? We have the hourly rate, we have the company size, the locality, so where they are based, as well as a list with services. So what are they offering to their clients? And it's really nice because it's sorted by what they're mostly focused on. So service 1 is their major focus on. So like you can see, this company has like 70% CEO focus. So this is also very interesting information you can then use for personalization or segmentation. We will see in a moment. And you have some other context like company description. Yeah. So now I have this information, and I basically just needed the company domain. That was what I wanted to enrich. You could run some more enrichment here in this company table. I know we have some expert users here as well. I don't know. Some people like to do enrichment here, but I did the enrichment a bit later because if I can't find an email for a prospect, then I don't want to spend money on the enrichment. So for this use case, I then added a new table here. You can have a new table to find people. And when you find people, you can reference a table with companies. And we reference the table with companies here. And what we did for this example, we can go here to prospects. And then we have the find people query here. And you can see I looked for, I excluded lawyers because we don't want to write to them. We had some people here in the audience that had, some not good experiences with lawyers, especially in Germany. And then we have the other job titles. And of course, this is just a search query for the people. And it will only take into account the domains and companies that you have in the previous table. So it's very nice. Now, if you add to the new table, you can run this again, and it will incrementally add new people to it. And our data from the company table lives here. You can see all the fields really nicely in this object here, and you can access it. You can pull it out as a column if you want to organize your table, or you can just leave them in here and reference them in this object. So now the next thing, because we found people, and this of course cost a Clay credit, so you need to be aware of that. It wasn't for free, all of it, but so far we have been pretty good. And we have found people, and you can see of the 100, we found 39 people, so 40% around. You could also do fallbacks. If you don't find this let's say job title, you could do a fallback on other job titles. But in our case, we have these 40 here. So you can see if we have this data here, like first name, and for instance here you have Jace. Jace is very clever, and he has an arrow in front of his name because he wants to know if someone does cold outbound to him. If that arrow stays in the name, they will know, or he will know. So you can do in Clay, of course, operations, and it's very good for things that you would do in a Google sheet. You can do it here, and you can have a formula that will basically just say, okay, just keep the letters. Yeah? You don't have to write this hieroglyphs here, and you don't have to learn this syntax. This is really great. You can just write a prompt here, and that prompt will be turned into the syntax, and Clay will understand how to do it. It works really well. Like most of the time, you can check if it's right. Yeah, Jace arrow Jace became Jace, and works well. So now we have a clean first name we're going to use in our cold email. And we have some other information, and all this information like job title, location, and LinkedIn profile, which we also want for our multi-channel outreach, we all get from this find people query or enrichment that is built into Clay. Okay, the next thing, as I mentioned already, we have waterfalls. We have waterfalls here as well, and this is a waterfall to find our email. I think quite a while ago now, Clay released this feature here. You can see this is like a button here. You can click that, and it shows you all the steps that this waterfall does because it's multiple steps. And in my case, I tried 2 providers to find an email. Yeah, you can see here, find work email. This is our first provider. This is ICPs. I use this one because it's cheaper. It's the cheapest, I think, from all of them. And if it doesn't find that email, a waterfall works that way that it will try the next provider. And in this case, you have here the Tagma, and you can see that we found Mark. We couldn't find with the other provider. Yeah, so the value in waterfall is that you can chain multiple providers without having a subscription with them. You can do that all in Clay. And then the waterfall provides a merge column as well, as you saw that with the domains, that if we find it here or here, then it will be merged into this one column, so you can only you don't have to work with 2 columns, you can work only with this merged column later on. And we can close this waterfall and you just get the result here, so it doesn't clutter the space so much. Okay, so far we have found people based on a table of companies, and we found their emails. So now we could do some segmentation. And for instance, here, there's a very simple segmentation. For instance, here we could have a Boolean field, so a true or false. Is it true or not? And we're looking through all the services that they have, and we're looking if they have search engine optimization in one of the services. Yeah. So we have this company here, and you look into this company. you have service 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah? And then we're looking through this list here and see if they have search engine optimization. And they do have that, yeah? If they have it, then we want to say yes, and you can have this little check mark here. This is a form of, you know, segmentation you can use as a very simple example. You can get more crazy. You can also have something like this here, CEO focus, where you can say, okay, I want to look at the services, but I want to only look at this company if 50% of their service, like say weight, is on CEO. Yeah, and so this company is almost kind of laser focused on, you can say 80% if you want, focused on CEO. And then, you know, you will have among the CEO ones, not all of them will do have a strict focus on CEO, and you see these two do not have, even though they mention CEO. So another form of segmentation, or you can do, you know, find me email marketing service agencies that are, you know, having email marketing services in their services listed. And then why are we doing this segmentation? Well, this segmentation you can do then to route prospects into different campaigns. Yeah. So when you do segment, then within one table, you can move people or distribute your prospects across multiple campaigns. And we have two campaigns you can see here: add to Woodpecker CEO focused campaign or add to Woodpecker email marketing campaign. And so this is actually the integration with Woodpecker. And you can see here in the integration with Woodpecker, we have our connection that we had with our API key from Woodpecker. And then we can here search for the campaigns. And then we can here map the fields that we can push into Woodpecker. Yeah? We can have all the fields, company domain, job title, all the snippets. So these are like the custom fields you can put in. And of course, LinkedIn and the personal profile here. So for multi-channel outreach. And how to get there? When you do an action, you can do here, for instance, insert one on the right. You go to enrichment. You put in Woodpecker. And then you have those four actions here. You have add prospect to database. So this is in Woodpecker, you have a main database. That means people are in this database that are not necessarily in a campaign yet. And you have the campaign databases. Yeah? So you can have add prospect to campaign or add prospect to the database. And then you have two more actions here: update the prospect in campaign or update the prospect in database. So basically you can move data from either add a new prospect to either database, either the global one or the campaign one, or you can sequentially or later on as well update that person if you want to. And all the fields, of course, in the campaign. In this example, as I said, we're using this tag here. We're using this tag here, CEO focus, and only if CEO focus is set, then I want to add this prospect to this campaign. Yeah, so the very simple example of segmentation, we looked if they are focused, laser focused on CEO, yes. If that's true, then I want them to be in the CEO campaign. And now, because you did the segmentation, you can have a campaign that is very relevant to that audience. Yeah? So you do personalization through segmentation in this case. Or like Josh Brown says, the list becomes the message. And you do that in one campaign because in the next column, you take another batch of your prospects and add them to the email marketing campaign. So you have a second campaign here. And this one works the way that we only put people in there that are not CEO focused, but have email marketing services listed in there. Yeah? And now you route the other half or a third of your prospects into a different campaign. And you can see these campaigns here in Woodpecker. So you can see these campaigns here. We have the laser focused one and the email marketing one. And you can see here, for instance, we could have, we can have this person here, Serge Bloom. He was in the CEO one. And here we have our prospects that we sent, 4 prospects. And the way you send them, you can either say, okay, this column runs automatically, or you can run it manually here. Yeah. I usually like, okay, this is not meant because we have to maybe fund the email. If it doesn't have an email, then it doesn't run. So you have all those fallbacks that will make sure that it doesn't run, if there is no data. Okay. Let's look at the campaigns for a moment. So you have here the SEO, laser-focused SEO campaign. And this campaign, you can see, is a multi-channel campaign. You can see that here it has a LinkedIn automation. It has also something called a condition. So how does it look like? In this example, when we go to the edit, so you can see kind of the structure of the email sequence. We have one email, we have a second email here, and then we have a condition. So here we have a condition: if they have opened at least once, yes, then they get more emails. If they don't open the first two emails, they get LinkedIn. Yeah, so this is the way you can do, for instance, the LinkedIn automation. This is one way. You can use, of course, LinkedIn in the beginning of it. But in this case, for instance, you would use email first. And not a lot of people use it. And they keep emailing the same people, even after two emails that didn't open. And it lowers your engagement of the campaign. But if you do it this way, then you filter out those people that haven't engaged in email for the first two emails. And now you can try a different channel, in this case, LinkedIn. And with Woodpecker, you can here do a visit profile automation. You can do a send requests automation. And then you can do an automation with sending in direct messages. You can fill it the message, and it will be personalized for you. Automation here in Woodpecker works through cloud, so you don't have to have an open tab or browser. And the people that engage with email can get more emails. Yeah? So you can get more out of this list doing the email one. All right, so this would be a very basic example where you just get your list, get your people, get your emails, and then you do a basic segmentation through the data. You can do a scoring, so you can don't have to just do does this service exist? You could say does this service exist? Is the company bigger than XYZ? Is the company in this country? And give it a score, and then based on a score, route those prospects to different campaigns. This is, of course, a very simple example. All right, next thing, I'm doing some personalization. So I'm preparing some data, and Clay is again good for working on data like you would do in an Excel sheet. For instance, here I make myself a helper column where you have the service list. So it basically just takes all the services and makes a list out of it with an and in between. So I can put that in a sentence. Or I make myself a list with three, SEO, PPC, and email marketing. Also, for instance, that's an idea you can use for yourself. If you have very long words, you can do acronyms. You can see here SEO, PPC. And instead of search engine optimization, because for email it's harder to read, longer messages are harder to read and take a lot of space, you can say like, okay, let's replace social media marketing or SEO with some kind of acronyms. Yeah. So in this case, you can see search engine optimization becomes SEO. And now, this kind of data processing or working on this data can be done all in Clay. You don't have to export your data and work in your CSVs and stuff. You can do it all here. Then we had the minimal project size. I do some preparation here as well. You can see here the 1K, 25K, something I can use in the email. The original is some kind of string. You can see here they had something like 1,000 plus. Yeah. So it's not that nice to write in an email. And I also want to use it more natural, like a human would say. So I'm, converting that into something like that. Again, with formulas, you can do that here. Then we do something like a conversion rate. I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing here in a moment, because it all will come together. This is just like prep work. And then we have here something like conversion rate. So depending, you can do something like this. For instance, depending on a different value, make another value. For instance, here, we're looking at, okay, what is the minimum project size? If it's bigger than, let's say, 50,000, then the conversion will be 5%. What I'm doing here is just, creating a calculation based on another column, and this conversion will help me to, calculate ROI for the customer, potential ROI. But I want to make it more believable. So if they have a very high a very high deal size, so they probably have a lower conversion. So we're kind of doing some kind of prep work here to prepare this. And then we're creating revenue. So here is a column that for the personalization that will take all this data. So we're taking the minimal project size, we're taking their conversion rate, and we're taking how many leads they could have, 168, because one of our clients did 168 leads a month. That was in a similar segment, so we're using them as a case study, but we also doing some math for the customer, telling them, okay, this is how much ROI you could have if you would be that one customer that we have working and starting with outbound. So this is the first thing. A second thing, what we could do here for personalization, and we're gonna be putting it all together in a moment. Another thing here is, this is something you probably maybe seen on LinkedIn. People like to do this. This is an example where you can use AI to generate ideas. So you have all this context from this company. We have like the services, the domain, the company description, and then we provided some ideas for use cases. Lots of ideas. If you give a lot of ideas, it's good. I mean, if you give very specific ideas, what you want from the AI as output, it's going to be better than just making stuff up. And then some limitations, as well as how much do I want it to cost me, and the output should be 3 ideas. 3 ideas. And the general premise here is to write a very short 5-word sentence on how they could use Woodpecker in terms of outbound, with connecting it to the context of that company. So if this company, for instance, is focused on, I don't know, selling furniture, it would mention something about furniture as a use case. Yeah? So you're creating ideas for that are very, 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 very personalized. This company had UTU landing experiments in the description that they focus on that. I wouldn't use boost. Again, you would iterate over this prompt and say like, okay, I don't want these words to be appearing in my email. But in this example, you can see it created something very, very personalized. Basically, all of these points are based on the description of the company. The better the context you provide, the better the sentence will be here. Another thing I'm doing here to prep work, here is an HTTP API request. Because if you want to use the integration, you have to have the second plan in Clay. Once you have the second plan, you have also access to be able to use any kind of APIs. And in this case, I used an API from MX Toolbox. MX Toolbox is a tool where you can check, are you on a blacklist, for instance? But you can also check if your SPF is okay. Yeah, so this record you have to for authentication, where you define who can send in your name with your domain. So I can do this at scale for all these prospects. Yeah? So I have this HTTP request, and you can do it for free. They have like 68 requests a day. So you can see here I have a connection, so I had to set up this connection, but I just created an API key here. And then similar this we did with Woodpecker. And then you have an endpoint here, so where do you send this request to? And what are we sending? We're sending the domain. Yeah? So for this domain, look up the SPF record. And then there's some settings, blah, blah, blah. And then we get something back, lots of it. You can see, blah, 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 lots of information. And out of this information, there is something that talks about the error, something about the SPF record. You can see here, the whole record, which is very interesting. So if, for instance, you have one company here that, it's a digital marketing agency, but for their domain, for the main domain, the SPF record is wrong. Yeah, so when they send emails now, they might land in spam because the SPF record is not well configured, because it has to have up to 10 lookups, and this one has 13. So it's very specific, theoretically something I would have to do manually, I've done through automation here. Yeah? And now I can use it in my email as personalization. As well as if I get the SPF record, look, I can see, okay, they have SPF protection Outlook. So if I know that, this is no-brainer, this means Outlook means Microsoft, yeah? So they're using Microsoft for sending. But there's a lot of other things, like MailChimp might be mentioned in there. You have Google, so they're probably also sending from Google. You have Mailgun here. So you have a lot of extra bits of information you could use for personalization or segmentation. Yeah? Segment customers or segment companies that use Mailgun and put them into this campaign. Yeah? So there's an alternative to get data about the tech stack that you don't use just like something like built with, which scrapes the website. Yeah? All right, so what I do here is also create myself a nice sentence. You can see here you have an error, too many lookups worth fixing. So this is basically just preparation for personalization because I have a sentence in my copy that requires this snippet. What else? One last thing before we then look at the emails. This is a bit over engineering, but I wanted to show you that because maybe you want to try something like that. I have because there's this list is basically all digital agencies. They are theoretically competing with each other. Yeah? Maybe if now you have to think about, okay, maybe you have to find the criteria how they can compete or where they compete. And for my criteria, I took the services. Yeah. So if someone offers web design, then the other one that offer web design might be their competition. No brainer. But I also looked at like locality. So if they're in the same space, then they're even more competing. As an assumption, this is an example. Yeah, it might not not be the best example. So what I have here is I basically have the same list again here of those companies. And I have here like a key where I have the locality and the services merged together. Because in Clay there is no lookup for multiple, at least to my knowledge, for multiple conditions. So I had to create a key, and the key here is a merged field of service and the locality. And then in the prospect table we are looking up a competitor. And you can see here we have a big list, and these are all the competitors to this company, yeah? Because they all offer the same service. Yeah? And now, because I have the competitors, I want to have a competitor that has a better rating or review count than me. So there is another company that has 10 reviews, and I only have 2 reviews. Yeah? So now I'm using here a formula, which is a very complicated formula, but it basically it doesn't look that bad. But it basically looks through all these records, and it tries to find a record that has, or a competitor that has a bigger review than me. Yeah, and this is basically the result of this. And I'm pulling out all those fields here. You can see this one has 35 reviews. Now let's see if it's going to be like a live demo where it doesn't work, but this one has 35. Might be a meta presentation. Everything crashes. Come on. And this one has company. 10 reviews. So yeah, it found someone that has more reviews. Great, 35. And you can make it like find me as close as possible. Yeah, so it's believable if you give. It's about relevancy. Yeah? If you want to name something, it needs to be relevant, whether it's competitor or not. Yeah, and we try to create relevancy at scale here. Okay, so we got this, and everything is prepped. So in the end, I could update that prospect again. I have an update here to move these fields around. And now let's look at like kind of the end result before I finish the presentation. So here we have one person here. We have Aaron, and for Aaron I have this email. Now we can argue about copy. I'm not the best copywriter, but just to give you the example of like the snippets we used here. Yeah. So now here, hey Aaron, I went through your clutch profile. Looks like you focus on SEO and PPC. Yeah. So this is all personalized per company. I noticed that code email isn't listed there. Imagine your 1K minimal project size times the 10% conversion and times 168. That would be 17,000 additional revenue. This is based on 168 leads. This is based on the customer we had. Blah blah blah. So you have like a calculation, ROI calculation in here. Copyright-wise, of course, you can make it better, but this is just to showcase the technical possibilities for every single company, for everyone on the list. You did that at scale automatically. Yeah. And now you can see here in the PS, I checked your SPF record and it looks like, this is hard-coded. And then this part here, you have an error, an invalid syntax found, worth fixing. Yeah? So we try to kind of hack attention, whether, that we kind of did some manual work, but we didn't really do it. We did it at scale through engineering our table. And then you can see here the second one is about the competitor. So we're trying different angles. Yeah, maybe this person is all about ego. Yeah, they want to be the best. Yeah, they hate competitors. So maybe try this angle. The first one was ROI based. Now we're trying a follow-up with competitor. Yeah? So you can see here. Hi Aaron, your clutch profile mentions search engine optimization. This is long written here because we're pulling it from the competitor in UT. So this is the locality. I noticed that this is the competitor's name. Offers the same service, yet they have more reviews than you. 358. Thinking of ways going ahead, blah, 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 and then you can kind of try to do your pitch. Yeah? Maybe they want to introduce a code email into the outbound or acquisition strategy. Yeah? This is all about trying to pitch Woodpecker, basically. And then the last example was here with the ideas. So you have basically like, we can reuse the, I couldn't find cold email there. Have you considered adding cold email to CEO and PPC? And then we have here the ideas. Yeah? So basically, we activate DOM and PPC lead with ROI-focused ACE test offers. They mentioned that in their company. I don't even know what it is, ACE test offers. But they have that in their description. And yeah, this is basically it. Once you have this table set up and you are confident that everything is well, you can turn on the auto update and then it runs itself. It sends the prospects over. Whenever you have a new list of companies, you add them to the company table. Then you rerun the prospect search thing, and then everything runs by itself, distributes the leads into the right campaigns, and you have a beautifully personalized outreach. And this is it.